It is that time yet again in the week where we, of course, reflect on everything about cricket in this Monday Night Live. My name's Avnish Hegde, and of course, I'm joined in by the familiar friends in Akshay Kumar Swami and Nikhil Pope. But yesterday, if you guys missed the watch along, you guys missed out a bit. So go back and watch that because India can't believe they lost. Everyone thought 2-2 would make it 3-2 India. I certainly did. That was my bold prediction when they were 2-0 down. But Hardik Pandya is still, apparently, we're hearing rumors that he's still peeling off the egg on his face. So let's see how that really goes because he's been slandered on Twitter. He's been called rusty, been called Captain Clueless. But I want to figure out from the boys what they make of Hardik Pandya, the captain, the batter, the bowler, and all of that. There's lots on the show with regards to Prithvi Shaw and his 244, what that's done for the greater good. And not to forget, we'll give you a little sneak peek preview of not just India, Ireland, but Australia, South Africa, with their squads dropping out, and looking forward to the CPL, plus lots more. So get locked and get your comments through because, look, at the end of the day, Monday Night Live is a destination where you guys should really tune into whenever you guys are done with all your weekly worries. Right, with that said and done, and one more thing that I want to say, like this video before, of course, I get to Nikhil and Akshay. Nikhil, how are we this Monday? Because obviously, waking up in the morning and reading all the headlines, it doesn't really bode well for an Indian fan.
Yeah, I mean, we wanted this for the greater good. Now, to see whether the greater good happens or not, I'm sure it will. But plenty to pick out from what Hardik shared in the post match. I felt lots of insights into how he thinks about captaincy, how he wants to go about it, and what could be the takeaways for us going into the future. That okay, he's somebody who wants to work on his instincts. So, but it is not going to be as easy as it may sound. That whatever feels right at that point of time, because you will need to have plans A's, B's, C's, D's. As of now, it's felt that it's been plan A or Hardik's gut feel. So going forward, because again we are assuming, we don't know, that he'll be the captain into the World Cup. So there will be a lots to work on there in terms of captaincy.
Yeah, in terms of captaincy, spot on with that analysis. And we don't know. I mean, that's the sorry truth for Indian cricket fans and cricket fans generally around the world. I mean, India's such a powerhouse in the game, Akshay, and it's sad that we still don't know who the man actually is going to be leading us in that World Cup next year. Right, I just want to ask you, Akshay, if we had to be honest with ourselves after this series, we lost 3-2. I say we because Indian fans, and inevitably the emotion comes through. If you just take a pen and paper and plot down pros and cons, there'll be lots more cons compared to pros. Am I right in saying that?
I mean, the fact that you're using plural for pros, that itself is like that's a reflection of your optimism. Barring Yashasvi Jaiswal, I don't really know what other pro could you think of when it comes to the T20I squad. Uh, I genuinely don't know. So yeah, I first want to ask you, what exactly are you talking about when you say pros?
I would say probably Tilak Varma to a certain degree, Kuldeep again doing that, but very little. It's just maybe 3 or 4 pros that we've all harped upon in the watch along. But when you look at the cons, the bowling changes, and people are even adding traits about him, the person, which is affecting India as a team. I mean, do you agree with some of the statements coming out of the series? I know it's knee-jerk reactions, and I know people, of course, are going to throw daggers every time the national team doesn't do well. But Hardik Pandya, let's start there and essentially address him as a captain. What do you kind of rate him? Early days, but do you agree with everything which is flying around? Cocky, arrogant?
See, again, it's one of those things. Like, I'm afraid I'll have to bring back the watch along conversation we had yesterday and the day before again. Day before we spoke about Chahal, how his batting is coming to the fore only because his bowling hasn't been good. Yesterday, Rohit Sharma, how his fitness is coming to the fore because his batting hasn't been good. Similarly with Pandya, because the results aren't in his favor, he's come like now people see him as someone who's cocky, who's arrogant. Had the results been in his favor, then he would have been someone confident, someone who's in your face, someone who's all of that stuff would have been the narrative
Not
around him.
necessarily, right? Because many people still get the impression from the outside, ever since that goddamn interview, and God bless him for that, he's not been able to change perception that much, at least in some quarters. Nick's come in here. Do you agree with that thought?
See, I think in India, in cricket especially, everything is just on results and not process. As much as everybody will come out and talk about it, eventually those results are primary, no matter they may be secondary in certain times at certain parts of the process. But like it's something that we discussed during the IPL as well, that there is a way that everybody wants to lead. Now, like Virat Kohli led a certain way, Rohit Sharma has led a certain way. With Hardik Pandya, there is a general notion or a vibe that you get that he's trying to be, and he's openly admitted that he wants to be have things done the Chennai Super Kings way, and not so much the Mumbai Indians way, where there is a very cool environment, everybody's given freedom and all of that to come good. And when it comes off for you in the first season, you will feel vindicated that yes, it is right, and the results are there for us for me to show. But
Yeah.
with time, you also realize that people will get ready for you, and now they know how they are going to play. So, like we saw in the second season, that it is difficult and not practical to think that what works for Gujarat Titans is what will work with India. So you can have an Alzari Joseph, a Joshua Little, a Mohammad Shami, a Rashid Khan, a Noor Ahmed at your disposal, where you can throw the ball to anyone on your instinct, on your plan A, plan B. It may come off and it will look better, but it may not always happen with India because that's not how the ecosystem works there. So I think that realization will happen for Hardik as well. That which is why I said the quote that he said that most of the times my bowling genius are what I feel at that point of time, which is fair way to go about it. But the thing is, you'll have to be ready to have many backups because not every time that first thing will work. And it is all this that people have to take into consideration, because see, if the result is going to decide how you think about him as a person, then you'll have to still dig deep into, as much as we all hate the word process, because it's those process that is leading him to being a certain kind of person on the field.
No, and I think that augurs well. But look, we all see captains and their philosophies. MS Dhoni, of course, goes by instinct. I think Hardik Pandya falls in that same boat, Akshay, because he said it after the defeat yesterday that it's gut feel more than anything. It's not rocket science and all of that. What do you make of that? And what do you make of, say, a Venkatesh Prasad tweet yesterday where he went on to say India needs to improve in their skill set? There is a hunger and intensity deficiency, and often the captain looked clueless. Bowlers can't bat, batsmen can't bowl. It's important to look for yes men and be blinded because someone is your favorite player, but look at the larger good. I mean, good old Venky speaking his mind. But what do you make of that? First, like I asked you, and second, this tweet.
So yeah, firstly talking about Pandya and him being more instinctive, this has always been the case. And again, I have nothing more to add to what Nick said, in that this was always the case with him, except when he had resources, the likes of Rashid, Alzari, Noor Ahmed, and all of that, Mohammad Shami again. Then of course all of it made sense. All of those pieces to the puzzle fit perfectly. Now when he realizes that the resources available in hand are Mukesh Kumar, Kuldeep Yadav, not so firing Yuzvendra Chahal, that's when things sort of went a bit out of control, and that's when it became difficult for him as well to manage things. He's always been instinctive, and again, the sample size when it comes to judging his captaincy is too small. There's absolutely no point, even if you want to dig into his processes. There's very little that he's done when it comes to T20s for you to discernibly say that this is right and this is wrong. So again, I would still reserve my comments and opinions, as much as I love dishing them out left, right, and center. And coming to Venky's tweet, that's just Venky being Venky, man. Like, it was hilarious to begin with. Seemed a bit too salty by the end of it. That's all I can say, because he's had some interesting, slightly extreme takes, both pro and anti Pandya, pro and anti Gill, and all of that. It basically depends on which side of the bed has he woken in the morning, I guess. Like, आज इस तरफ से उठा तो भाई ये बोल देंगे, कल दूसरी तरफ से उठेंगे तो कुछ और बोल देंगे, तो पता नहीं. So I again don't want to spend a lot of time on Venky's tweet, to be honest.
Okay. By the way, a lot of people in the comments giving us love as usual. Really, really good to see that. Santosh Urupa going on to say, MNL giving me football vibes after the weekend action. Can't wait for United later on tonight. So they're playing at 8 p.m. Good to see that. Sarvanan saying, okay, now what are the options for the next coach for India? We'll come to that because, of course, we told you about the temporary coach for the Ireland series, which is Sitanju Kotak, and he'd be traveling with Bumrah and co. Sports fan going on to say batting depth has more or less always been same in the Indian T20 inside, which is not idealist in the first case. Is Dravid trying to cover up the failure of India's batters, especially Hardik's hard-hitting abilities? Which leads me nicely to my next question about Hardik, right? Hardik, the batter, where do we like to see him? What is his ideal position? What is his best entry point? Let loose, guys, because essentially I think he should be batting at 6 and he should be the finisher. None of this anchoring bullshit. Nix, do you agree? Disagree?
And I think it is a point that is debated long and hard, and it is something that's a very tricky call to take, because then you have to practice that role enough for you to be able to pull it off very often, as much as you may want it to. So there are things like when he started for Mumbai, you felt that okay, this is a similar role to what he'll play for India. So it feels best that yes, he's practicing in that role. But slowly you and gradually you saw him move out and bat higher up the order, which is where it's worked for him. But there have been issues that are still there in terms of versus hard length, which is what Alzari Joseph showed yesterday. That if there is some hold, that's what he was peppered with. England did that to him as well, and that's where you started to see everybody doing that. But then when he gets time to set in and then go after the bowling, he is a different player. So in all of this, Hardik will have to find a way to firstly find a right entry point for him. And in this series, I think he's come in at a decent time, and he's looked very rusty, which is again something that we've talked in the watch along. Even after the break yesterday, you suddenly saw him come out and hit two shots, which felt far more out of the middle than the struggling bit. So there is a lot to work on there. The numbers haven't been great, and they haven't been great for a while now. So that so it's like choosing between consistency of 30s 40s at a high strike rate, or you looking at something of a bigger role that maybe he will push him up to 4 and play like Surya. Forget about the situation in terms of what is who you want to attack and not. This is the game situation. This is the venue. What is your best bit? Show us that. So again, it's like as he rightly said, there is a long way to go. But if it's going to be played in West Indies, it's not going to be easy. So you'll have to have a fixed role. I'm not perturbed by the spot. I'm very perturbed by the role that they decide for themselves.
Yeah, and I think that's the key there, right? The bottom line is the role that Pandya as a captain batter we'd like to see, especially in this format where it is hostile. Batting in 3-4, you can't afford to take your time. Even if you do, you kind of give yourself 4, 5, 10 sighters at best, like how Kohli does. But again, Kohli is an exception. Just to finish up this Hardik Pandya batter chat before we just talk about him, the bowler, and then close up on that. There are a couple of points, Akshay. And whether you agree with this or not, this is what I've gathered from close quarters, seeing him as well, and of course, B, the batting captain he is. One, people say from the outside, his power's on the wane. It's more of a skill issue than will issue. The second part of it is that he chooses to be this way, where he sucks in a lot of balls and wants to kind of bat till the end, something of the Mahendra Singh Dhoni template, but he hasn't been able to get the success of it. And 3, his first point, really, his best days are past him. So, considering all of this, how does he rejuvenate himself and how does he reinvent himself as a batter? Because everyone liked Pandya, the batter, for MI in that heyday.
Oh, for sure. Again, and maybe, yeah, like you said, he is manifesting his inner MS Dhoni, and he wants to face as many balls and take it as deep as possible and all of that. I don't know if it's a skill issue or not, because again, I'm not well equipped to talk about the technical deficiencies of any batter. But this has been the general trend when it comes to Hardik Pandya for the better part of the last 2 to 3 years. It's not something that you're seeing recently. So we need to understand that it's not something that, like this conversation isn't just a knee-jerk reaction to what we've seen in the West Indies series. That's point number 1. Point number 2, when it comes to him wanting to reinvent himself, again, we don't know. If it's a skill issue, then of course he'll have to come up with new shots. He'll have to come up with something else, a way to tackle those hard lengths and all of that. Or else, if he really is comfortable playing the anchor role that he's doing for Gujarat Titans, maybe potentially another option could be promoting him higher up to number 3. Maybe like the Ireland series, the number 3 spot is vacant. We were having a discussion of who could probably fill it in. Maybe in the future, Hardik Pandya could actually play that number 3 role, where he plays the anchor, adds some value to the team there, takes the game till the 12th, 13th over, and then the likes of Sky, Tilak, Jitesh, Rinku, Sanju. There's so many of those, there's so many of these players who can start from the get-go. They can come in later and attack as need be. So that's one option. And rather, that's the only option until and unless he decides to reinvent himself. And since you also wanted to talk about bowling going further, a point that both Anirudh and I brought up during the watch along yesterday was one reason why he's even more keen on bowling is probably because he himself realizes that, he's not being able to add value with the bat, at least not as much value with the bat as much as expected of him. तो भैया अगर टीम में टिकना है तो कुछ ना कुछ तो करना ही पड़ेगा. That's probably his intention, as noble or as rightful as it may seem. I don't know if you can justify it or if you can rationalize it, but yeah, it is what it is.
How do you rate him as a bowler, Nick? Really quickly on his bowling, because at times he gets tagged as greedy, kind of being opportunistic, grabbing onto the best conditions to bowl. We know that he loves, in fact, and that's also an understatement, taking the new ball. He doesn't bowl himself in the death, not that much at least. What is his best option with the ball in hand?
I'll go on to say Hardik probably knows his bowling potential more than his batting potential, if you can put it that way. I feel that way he's very self-aware about that, and which is where you see him again. It hits you in the eye more because he's the captain. But as we discussed in the watch along, if he wasn't the captain, none of us would question where Hardik is bowling. Now it is because he's the captain and he's getting into times where you feel that okay, this is probably not the best time for him to bowl, but then he knows his best bet is when there is swing available, and he can bowl, extract that movement early on, or if he feels there is some good bounce in the surface, like he did with Liam Livingston, that I'll keep banging it in. If you want to take it on, take it on. Nicholas Puran did that. Livingston did that. One got out, one didn't. So it's a risk and reward strategy, but at least that is known that his role is potentially between 1 to 6 or say 11 to 15, or if in the middle overs if you want to use that short ball. I don't see him being bowling himself ever at the end of it, because that's not his major skill set. So it's actually, I don't know, in a way good that he'll not overexpose himself with the ball. Now the challenge is to find that potential and self-awareness with the bat. And then, as Akshay said, there are options for him. And if he is indeed the captain, maybe he may get the liberty to pick his spot. But then whichever he picks, he has to stick to that.
Yeah, and that's critical. I feel like if Hardik Pandya decides to go at any particular batting position or decides to properly be that sixth bowler for India, or maybe the fifth bowler, you never know what's up with him and these team selections nowadays. But look, India West Indies, a series to forget, but Akshay and Nick's kind of getting their wish in terms of the greater good. India losing that particular series. By the way, there are lots of fantastic stats available on the cricket.com carousel. For this, for example, a fact, we didn't even talk about it. But again, I don't want to talk about India West Indies because we had so much fun in dissecting it throughout this series and the watch-alongs. These are just kind of snippets of the stats that were there to see, some of the telling stats. More on the cricket.com website. And of course, considering we're talking about Hardik Pandya, just a little bit of an infamous club, should I say, that he joins with Dhawan, Kohli and Sharma. But those three at least lost. I mean, at least Kohli and Sharma lost to decent sides, unlike Shikhar and Hardik. But look, keep your comments coming through, and we will take the best of them, the 12th man comments as well. I mean, this is a good 12th man section. And what I'd like to do right now, before I move on to the best of the rest and all of that, India versus Ireland hits our screens as well. Ireland versus India, beg your pardon. And that's going to be another, I don't know, an insight into the future. I'd like to put it that way, with all the new names kind of coming about. And we will, of course, talk about that in greater depth in Gurkira's show on Thursday. But what I want to ask Nix and Akshay right now is just an early look ahead. And one individual thing personally that you'd like to see on this tour. Akshay, I'll start with you and then we'll go with Nix.
The middle order for sure. How they go ahead with and how they perform. Because in the West Indies series, the T20I series, India really struggled to have a coherent performance from their middle order. Sky performed once, Tilak performed. Of course, Tilak was the only consistent batter in the middle order, but barring him, everyone else just blew hot and cold. That's something I'm really looking forward to, and I'm looking forward to seeing a lot of debutants. So yeah,
I mean, you look at the squad, and we showcased it, I think, in the last week episode. Did we just a glimpse of the first episode of Monday Night Live where the squads were announced? And it has interesting names like Shahbaz Ahmed and Shivam Dubey. Sanju Samson keeps his place as Nitesh Sharma as well. Knicks, all things considered, three T20 internationals. What are you looking forward to the most?
Jasprit Bumrah. I don't think I could hide that smile when I said that name, but really looking forward to how he gets in, how he's bowling, because again he'll be the captain. So I don't think you're going to look at like what else can you look into him as a captain, but just him, his combination with Arshdeep Singh, and you have Prasidh Krishna who's fit and firing. So a combination of these three bowlers playing it double in, if conditions are such that you get good swing, I wouldn't mind a pace kind of attack. But again, that's where I want to see more decisions being taken in terms of who plays in the middle order, because then are you going to play Sundar because you missed an offie? You saw what Tilak Verma did versus Puran. Where does Sundar bat if he plays? Do you play Shivam Dubey? Rinku Singh, you'll hope he gets a game. So there's a lot of exciting things to look forward to, but majorly for me, it will still be just with Bumrah's slower Yorker. Maybe I don't know even if it's in his first over.
Yeah, it's his second captaincy test in terms of
Yeah.
leading India. He failed in Edgbaston, and God bless him in that. But Vasant Narayan saying, Prasidh Krishna's kiddie bowler, I'm waiting for his arrival. In fact, we saw him ply straight in the Maharaja Premier League, which of course started on Sunday. And he looks fit and he looks good. But touch wood when I say that, because all these players that we like are normally stricken with injury. Someone like Washington Sundar as well. So let's just hold that thought. Guys, quick prediction before we move on to the best of the rest. India Ireland, is it safe to say 3-0? Because we played Ireland, I think, in 8 white ball games in our history, and we've beaten them 8 times. So is that going to change? Nix?
I don't think everything is as black and white now. So if rain stays away, I still see 2-1, and it will not be bad also to lose, as Hardik said. Sometimes it's good to lose.
Yeah, I mean, Akshay, do you think greater good again comes into this chat? India lose 3-0 and be like, yeah, greater good, man. Come on, greater good.
I wouldn't be entirely upset if Ireland do end up winning the series. But yeah, I'm predicting a 2-1
Yeah.
win victory in India's favor.
Okay, so you guys are both expecting the men in green to get at least one win going their way. Lots more coverage of that on cricket.com, of course. Ireland, decent side. They're going to be led by Paul Sterling, who is a T20 character and a half. And you guys can catch the first watch along. When is it, boys? Friday is the first one?
Friday.
Yeah.
So we'll be
17th
there.
of Friday.
Typical, yeah, IPL timing as well. So never rule that opportunity out to get in part of the watch along. Right. Lots of people having their comments go in the comments. I mean, essentially, I'm just losing my mind because suddenly there's a plethora of comments. Doodle Hacks, Vasant, be patient. In the 12th man, we'll answer all your lovely questions. And good to see you, Pranav Anand, as well as Sports Fan. Right, so lots to chat in the best of the rest segments. Let's get on with it because, look, at the end of the day, we love talking cricket, and here's all the remainder of it. Right, we have to, of course, start with a little Indian flavor with Prithvi Shaw doing things that only Prithvi Shaw can do. 244 he managed to, of course, conjure up in that game. Was it the Royal One Day Cup? Am I not wrong in saying that? The 244?
Metro Bank One Day Cup 23.
Oh, okay, of course. We'll just depict that particular innings that he got. This was the second one. This was the same one, but in terms of the balls, 129. And of course, Uli Ishan Kishan earlier last year when he did it against Bangladesh. And when I was tuning in on YouTube, watching the highlights of this game, I didn't think Prithvi Shaw would look, dare I say, so old, but there he is. And There's another particular depiction, because we love our stats at cricket.com. Batters with multiple double hundreds in list A. Yep, you guessed it, there's two Mumbaikars over there. One of them is Prithvi Shaw. I mean, there was another particular thing that I saw. I don't think we have that quote graphic, but it basically came from the Nottingham coach. And he said, look, Prithvi Shaw is the most humble cricketer that he's seen. And he's never seen someone be such a good stroke maker in the 25 years he's watched cricket. I don't know whether it's blown out of proportion, but what do you guys make of the Prithvi Shaw knock? And what does this tell us as well? Because Prithvi Shaw doesn't feature in our A team or B team or C team, maybe in the D team, but he still goes about hammering runs for fun, albeit it's a secondary or tertiary England squad.
Yeah, so I think it's always good to see your players go out and play cricket firstly. It doesn't happen very often, so it's happening, which is good. The disappointing bit about the Prithvi Shaw thing is not the runs, but the comments that have followed. So he's been very vocal in his interviews, well, that he's at times found himself very alone, and that is uh, not a good place to be in for anybody. And you will feel that in this day and age, if you are still associated, even if you're not associated with any franchise or a board, you are still part of a system. And I feel the onus remains on the system to take care of their players. So if Shaw is the one who's feeling left out, alone, I think he even said that he did not know why he was dropped. And again, a lot of things in Indian cricket is just left to conjecture, that you assume what it would be. But then it's not a place for. See, I understand us not knowing, but I'll hope and I'll wish that at least the communication is done with the player, that okay, this is the reason. Okay, we want you to work on your fitness. Okay, fine. This is what it is. At least let the player know, so that the player can then have a clear direction. Because in the past, we've seen people go to county, come back very, very different and better players. So it's just that awareness that you want people to have, and it's at the both sides. So while I'm happy for Shaw to score runs, I'll want the system, be it BCCI or Delhi Capitals, to ensure that he knows that he's somebody who will be taken care of. Eventually, it doesn't matter what age you are, and he's still very young. So even if he's old, I'll want people to take care, because that's what eventually you are playing for, right? You are representing something. So you're part of a group. You have to take care of everybody in that one.
Yeah, I think the messaging is very important here in terms of the BCCI to him. I know he's not been having the best of times just generally in the last 2-3 years, but he's still trying to knock at the door in whichever way possible, Akshay. So how do you see this Prithvi Shaw story developing in, say, 6 to 8 months' time?
Well, he needs to have a fantastic side. Mushtaq Ali, Vijay Hazare, Ranji Trophy, IPL, and then possibly he could be a part somewhere, at least in the fringes, at least of the Indian squad. It's really hard right now because he's fallen so far below in the pecking order, which is very unfortunate. But quite a bit could also be attributed to his own loss of form. Like, not everything has to do with just the narrative around. He's not done himself any good, with the kind of IPLs he's had, and uh, a bit of off-field issues supposedly and all of that. Something, yeah. So that's the only way I'm seeing him at least get some sort of mention in the T20 format. ODIs and tests, I don't see him coming in anytime soon, because Gill is a sure shot starter for the future. So is Jaiswal. Tilak Verma also seems to be knocking the doors in the red ball format as well. So yeah, I'm not sure if Prithvi Shaw could make a comeback in that format anytime soon, at least.
Next is going to what he said, right? He has to perform in all these tournaments, like he mentioned. But what if there's a caveat? Say he doesn't perform in SMAT, doesn't perform in Vijay Hazare or the Dulip Trophy, but he actually exceeds everyone's expectations in the IPL next year, right? So say he has a mad season of 750, and we see a completely different sort of Prithvi Shaw. Will it then kind of act as a catalyst to his Indian career? Because even if he does all the other tournaments, let's be honest, it's the IPL which really counts.
Yeah, and I think it'll, as Akshay said, it'll have to be a combination of a lot of things that he has to do right to stay in the reckoning, and then be consistent with your run scoring. So if he can come up with consistent good performances, his runs will eventually bang the door down for him in terms of yes, he deserves a look in. And then when he gets a look in, then is when he'll again have to do it again. See, that's what Indian cricket is not. It may look like a place where there are a lot of opportunities, but the competition is also so much that you have to be on your toes to get through. Once you get through, you will get enough chances. Again, there will be debate there. Some get more than others, but you'll at least hope that he'll get a fair run once again. But for that, as Akshay said, plenty of things for him to do right consistently over a period of time. Crack the domestic system, crack the IPL, and then I don't think there is any reason to then not take him.
Hmm. So let's see how that goes. And let's see if you guys agree with Nick's and Akshay's thoughts in the comments below, because lots of people, of course, having their saying different things, which we'll come to in the 12th man segment. So really appreciate your time joining on this Monday. And I know all you folks who will watch it later like this particular video if you're in this moment in time of the video, because it really, really means a lot to us. Right. So we told you about Prithvi Shaw and hopefully his aspirations to T20. And on that segue, I'd like to talk about the white ball squads of Australia and, of course, South Africa before we touch upon the CPL. So hold on to that as well. We'll start with the Australia squad, which came out, and this was how it looked in terms of the preliminary score. Let me get that right. Sorry. Pat Cummins, no-brainers, captain. But the interesting selections here, Tanveer Sangha, Aaron Hardy, which we touched upon last week, but the familiar guys and the usual candidates are there. Are they World Cup contenders in your eyes, Akshay Kumarswamy?
I mean, the preliminary squad that they've gone ahead with right now is a true reflection of how these players have performed in the last year or so. A couple of interesting selections. Aaron Hardy, in particular, is probably the most less known name out there. So he's played for Australia. He's been with them for a couple of tours or so. A very handy all-rounder, definitely. And it'll be interesting to see if he actually gets a game in the South Africa tour. And apart from that, yeah, your usual suspects. I don't think there's any name that you can think of in terms of, oh, this guy was unlucky, he should have been a part of it, or even the other way around, where you feel like, oh no, why is this name a part of, why is he in contention? None of that. Of course, Tanveer, Sangha, all of them haven't played yet correctly, and that's why this is just the preliminary squad. An 18-man squad will later be trimmed down further to 15 for the World Cup. So yeah, nothing much to add, so to say.
Before we jump out to South Africa, Nick, you can almost second guess Australia's ODI and T20 national teams, right? I mean, because certain players are in that twilight career, you talk about Cummins, the captain himself, Stark, Hazelwood, the Zampa. It's almost like the test team where you can kind of second guess it. How do you rate them, and what are the discrepancies in that squad?
So I think Australia have always found a way, and again, it's not nostalgic, but even in the recent times, you've seen them come the World Cup, even in the Ashes, they had their plans. They get things done their own way, which is fair. And I think there are some great names there. I think eventually form is what will dictate everything for all the teams. I feel this is possibly going to be a World Cup where there is a lot of cricket happening. A lot of players have been at a lot of places playing a lot of different kind of cricket. So when you're coming to an ODI World Cup, which is very long, it's not going to be easy to travel and play and travel and play. So all of that will be key. And they've already taken a call with Marnus, which tells you that they are not messing around, which is how it should be. You see Tanveer Sangha there, you see Aaron Hardy there. We don't know if they will hang around for that long to be part of the final squad, but on paper they look like they have most things covered. They have a fine top order, which will, of course, eventually you need the top order to fire. They have people in the middle order who could really make it big. We saw what they did in Australia in when they played the home World Cup. We have Zampa, who's been taking wickets regularly now, and the pace troika has always done well. So on good batting decks, you feel they have the batting depth as well that you may want from your side. So I think it's like almost every World Cup you do see them getting into the semis eventually, and then they always find a new hero to shine on that day.
Yeah, I mean, Pranav Anand going on to ask us, why do you think Hardy's picked so late in the build-up to the World Cup? Australia already have plethora seam all-rounders in Marsh Green and Stonis. It's just backup, and I think it's just Australia also showing the world that they have depth in that breed of cricketers. So why not? More the merrier, and just kind of making sure that even if they have to go to plan B, be it plan C, they have someone like Aaron Hardy. South Africa, on the other hand, I just really kind of took to one name, which is, of course, Dewald Brevis being announced in that particular squad. I can't wait for him. He should have ideally come to RCB with all of that build-up pre-auction, and then he goes to Mumbai Indians, so all of that. But look, I mean, South Africa, how do you rate them as a white ball team right now in the scheme of things? Akshay?
They're pretty good. And yesterday, Anirudh actually mentioned a very interesting point that probably in this century, this is the first time South Africa would be entering the World Cup, not as favorites, not with a lot of expectations, a lot of fanfare around them, which could actually help them. No expectations, no pressure, none of that. So they could potentially be the dark horse for this tournament. A very competent side, again, a side filled with players who have been in more than just decent hitting form. So I'm really looking forward to seeing how they go about it and where do they fit the Walt Brevis importantly. Because if you look at this side, Bamuma's a lock, De Kock's a lock, and up
Is
top there's
Bauma locked? Is Bauma locked?
I mean, they've announced them as skipper, so I would just assume. I mean, announced as in he is
No,
the skipper.
He's a skipper, the
Makram is a
ODI
skipper.
side.
Yeah. T20
Makram is a
Makram is a skipper.
Yeah.
No, I was talking about the World Cup ODIs.
Acha.
Okay. Fair.
ODIs की बात कर रहा था अभी. Klassen's in great hitting form, so he's again a lock-in. So is Markram, so is Miller. So it'll be interesting to see where does Brevis fit in this ODI jigsaw, and does he actually get a look ahead for the World Cup? And coming to the T20I squad, yeah, I mean, most of them, if not most, at least when it comes to the top order, most of them have been playing in the IPL, have been playing in various franchise leagues around the world as T20 Globetrotters. So, yeah, a very exciting squad, a squad that actually is very aggressive, very high on intent, which is a buzzword right now when it comes to T20. So, yeah, a very exciting squad.
I want to see how a couple of players do for South Africa in terms of the longer rope, like Gerald Coetzee. We saw a little bit of the MLC. I think I really like his energy, and he's just like an in-your-face character, which is good to see. I think also Donovan Ferreira, who lit up the SA20, he's in that T20 squad as well. Just at the ODI scheme of things in South Africa, Knicks, and maybe the T20 as well, because two spinners feature, Shamsi and Maharaj. How important will they be given the World Cup in ODI scheme of things is in India and the T21s in the West Indies? So those two, do you think they could be silent, unsung heroes?
Maharaj for sure. I think he's very, very underrated in terms of what he brings to the table. Sometimes he may go for runs, but then who does it? And again, Keshav is somebody who's very smart in terms of knowing what his limitations are and working around it. So, and with Shamsi, I think there has been a bit dip of form. Like he hasn't been able to take a lot of wickets in the LPL, where everybody else is kind of taking them for fun. But then with time, you'll hope that he'll get that rhythm bit sorted. To me, I think the bigger question, I don't know if it's a question, but I feel the crunch lies for me on Kagiso Rabada. For some time now, he's probably been hot and cold and hot and cold, but you haven't quite seen the Rabada that how he burst onto the scene. And so the test bowler is a different guy, but the white ball bowler hasn't always had the success that he wants to. So we even saw in the leagues that he's played, sometimes he's gone for a lot of runs. So very keen to see how he leads this attack, because I think from the batting end, I feel they are blessed to have Klassen in that form. And if Rasi Vande doesn't clicks, then I think these two with Miller could form an ODI pair to like an ODI troika to just look in the middle overs, that how they would run, hit spin, and also hit pace. So I think there are a lot of good pieces there, but coupled with form, I think they'll need a few leaders to step up. It may be Klassen with the bat, Rabada with the ball, Maharaj in the spin department. So I think that's how I see them shaping up. And with South Africa, you always see that happening. It's always like a group coming to you together than one or two guys at times.
Yeah, let's see how the Proteas go about their business, because lots of people will definitely be having a keen eye on them. Like Pranav Anand says here, South Africa is definitely one of my faves for the semi-final. Results are not true reflection of their potential. They can get in a role very easily in the World Cup. Some very good players, hitters a spin, and handy part-timers too. who Nick's, of course, hint upon. And I'll just let Akshay take this and wrap up the South African conversation before we move to the CPL chat. Do you see Ngidi getting cut from the final squad in favour of Magala and Gerald Coates?
Again, Gerard Coetzee too young, too early. Let's see. Let's wait and see how he goes about it. Ngidi actually could be a handful. When it comes to the slow surfaces of say Delhi, Lucknow, and all of that, he could actually be more than just handful. And this is something he's shown even while playing the IPL. So I'm not sure what his current form is like. I don't even remember when was the last time I saw him. Uh, did he? No, he didn't play any IPL game. Was he even available for Delhi this time around?
Don't think so. It doesn't ring a bell.
I think he was available, but I don't think he played.
Didn't play, yeah. So that's what I'm not even sure when was the last time I saw him. So it'll be hard to say anything right now. Let's wait for this series. Let's see how are they looking at Nkidi. Let's see who's up the pecking order. Only then would we also be able to make a call.
Okay, fine, but there'll definitely be a lot of South African players on display of the Caribbean Premier League 2023, which of course starts on the 16th of August. By the way, the Australia-South Africa series doesn't start anytime soon. It starts on the 30th of August into, I think, the 17th of September, and they play 3 T20s in Durban and then 5 ODIs before the World Cup. So, look, if you guys are an Aussie fan or a Proteas fan, check out cricket.com website out for all the coverage of that too. Speaking of the CPL, though, lads, obviously the biggest party in sport. They've been dubbing it since forever like that, and it just makes me think, where does the CPLA stand for you guys in terms of T20 franchise tournaments? There's PSL, there's of course a Big Bash League down under. CPL's been there for a while. What's to like and what's not to like, but where does it rank in terms of the pecking order?
I think CPL probably starts at a very indifferent time for me personally. Was far more different a few years back when you had a lot more time on hand. I think the pitches and conditions actually dictate a lot. Sometimes you see a lot of low scores where you see a 90 being defended, and games like that. But then you also see Puran, Levis, and Gale, and everybody having fun. So I think in that sense, it is probably party as it should be, because you have to eventually enjoy the game. I think given that the next World Cup is in West Indies, it will hold a lot of importance for a lot of sides, more so in terms of what to expect. Because again, we don't know exactly what the timings and etc. will be, but it will be played at various venues, so people will want to get a hang of, okay, this is what else to expect. And a lot of people are playing franchise leagues everywhere, so those who are going there will want to have a first hand information and then go back home and say that, okay, this is how things are, this is what works here, this is what works there, and maybe then you see how it goes. But it's again going to coincide with 100, so they may not have a lot of overseas players with clash and all that, but I do feel there are a few teams that will want to see how they go about their business.
Okay, we'll come to the teams and the squads and the fixtures in just a couple of minutes. I just want to ask Akshay, what's your favorite CPL memory, buddy? Because I remember Jamaican Talavas and Gale all those years ago, De Villiers for the Barbados Trident, and I know I keep saying RCB names, but essentially that's what caught my eye. What about you? I mean, Nick's mentioned a couple of low-scoring thrillers as well, right?
Yeah, I mean, Puran not being able to touch a single ball of Narayan in the super over. And eventually, finally, when he did manage to get some bat to the ball, he was dismissed. A maiden super over rather, that's unheard of. And that too, when you think that the batter was someone of the class of Puran, it makes it even more strange. So that's definitely a memory that'll rank high on top of my list.
By the way, Prashant Agarwal is going mad again in the comments saying Dravid Bagar World Cup Achao. The time is done for that. I mean, you should tune in earlier at 8 p.m., Prashant. But look, it was just a shout out from my side. Right, we'll talk about the teams, but here are the, of course, fixtures. And you'll have to really peer into your phone screens for this one, because apologies if you're not watching it on your laptop. But for the benefit of the viewers, all the games start pretty much at 7 p.m. and 10 a.m. Now, this is, of course, local time. From an India perspective, it's basically 4:30 in the morning and 7:30 in the morning. Good luck catching that action. But you can set your alarms, and we'll, of course, be giving you all the updates in the news the week letters, so on and so forth. The first game of the tournament is, of course, the St. Lucia Kings versus Jamaican Talavas. And like I said, that starts on Wednesday. But 6 teams, who looks the best, guys? Because essentially, I'm trying to put my finger on one. I would go for Barbados because I've just generally liked that particular city ring to it. And they have some good, likable characters. Bandadusan, I think, is there. Rakim Cornwall is there. Mahesh Theeksana is there this time. So lots to like in that team. But you guys can tell me the serious bits of it. Who starts favorite? Who the champions? All of that. Akshay?
I'll go first. Like Avni is saying that Barbados looks the strongest. This is basically a version of tell me you're not watching CPL without telling me you're not watching CPL. You cannot look past Trinbago Knight Riders and their plethora of West Indian superstars. You just can't. They have Puran, Narayan, Russell, Pollard, and I'm forgetting a fifth one. Bravo. They've got 5. That's potentially the
But
strongest.
they're all old and rusty.
Bravo. Did you even see Bravo in the MLC? Puran is rusty. Narayan is rusty.
It's the MLC. They're playing against USA cricketers, for crying out loud.
CPL isn't IPL. Then who are you expecting? Who do you think is playing in the CPL?
Essentially, look, we'll have a side bet. I think Barbados will definitely do better than TKR in this edition. I know it's
Why? Why is because Robin Powell is there? Like, what's the reason? What happened to Barbados?
because I always had this dream that Malia would buy them, and like I said in the watch along yesterday, the Royal Challengers Barbados. So essentially, just going for Barbados, man. It's a soft score. It's a soft corner. It's just a normal pick. But look, jokes apart,
Bhai,
Nick,
itna logic mat use karo yaar.
never logic. With CPL and all, no chance. Nick, what do you like about it, and who to watch out? He mentioned TKR over there.
Not watch out for. TKR is the strongest team on paper. Just to be clear, my team to watch out for is different. But Nick, sorry, आप पहले बोलो.
Who is your team to watch out for? Sorry,
पहले Nick को बोल
ना
ही
नहीं
देते
बोल
यार,
दो
भाई.
Bolo, bhai.
I'm looking forward to watching St. Kitts and Nevis Patriots. Yeah.
Fair one. I think DKR, it's very interesting because they've won 4 times, but they finished last, which is why there is a change in coach. You have Phil Simmons there, who's like the first team that you associate with West
Yeah,
Indies for a
West
long time
Indies.
in terms of coaching, franchise, and all of that. So I do feel the core is very strong, but they also finished last, which tells you that just big names will not make the cut. What is very very interesting is how they filled up and the options that they have now got. You have Puran in this form. Bravo has been doing well. Polar invariably always finds a way. So does Sunil Nare. Now you add the likes of Mahesh Patirana, Noor Ahmed, and you have all you. I mean, this is as good a bowling attack as you can get. This is probably the GT version of having so many international bowling options, but eventually it will come down to how they play on that day. So I feel TKR will definitely be favorites. Barbados with the captain swap from Talavas in Robin Powell, who I think Brandon King is now the captain at Jamaica. The defending
Fabian
champion.
Allen. They've gone with Fabian Allen, funnily
Acha.
enough. Yeah.
Okay, so then that's again a call to discuss that. Okay, what have
Yeah.
they discussed there to firstly let go of Powell? They've got Hayden Walls, which is again it's a deal. We'll not know much more than just that. So I think they do have quite a good number of names as well. There is, if I'm not wrong, I want to front. There is an Izzatullah Naveed who's going to play for
He's
Patriots.
he was
Patriots.
supposed to, yeah, but he's backed
Yeah.
out. He's backed out now.
So
But-
he's the one that I wanted to see because he's been with RCB
and
as
Sydney
a net ball.
Sixers. Yeah.
So of course the new head coach there definitely had a role to play.
Yeah, he backed out. He was a part of the squad, but he backed out due to commitments. I'm guessing he's a part of the Afghanistan squad or something. So he's backed
possible.
out. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think
But
for me the team will be TKR obviously, but I'm very keen to see how Patriots go because again there are a few names. There is a change of personnel, so I'm sure Akshay will dive deep into it. St. Lucia Kings is again Faf and Chase make you feel that okay they could really do something, but again
भाई
sometimes
हमारे
that-
फूल साहब है वहाँ पे Andy Flower.
So see the thing is a lot of them have names. They have Rajapaksha, they've got Sikandar
Yeah.
as well. So it's about eventually then
Williams.
using so it's about you using these names, getting them the right role and getting them good time. The only unfortunate bit is because I'm not sure I'll be able to watch it as much. So it's only going to be following highlights, unfortunately.
No, that's true. But he mentioned it right there. St. Lucia Kings, in terms of the whole RCB Connect right now, it'll be interesting to see how Andy Fla and Faf Duplessis go. You said St. Kitts and Patriots. St. Kitts
Nevis.
and
St.
Patriots.
Kitts
And
and Nevis Patriots.
yes,
Yes.
thank you for that. They
Yes.
have Amti Raidu and Brevis.
Correct.
What's the
No, Ambati Raidu has come in as Brevis's replacement.
okay?
And assuming that all goes well in terms of his clearances and all of that, we don't know, BCCI and their entire clearance system. पता नहीं कौन clear होता है, कब clear होता है, कैसे clear होता है. So देखते हैं. But yeah, assuming all goes well, then Raido is all set to become the first Indian international to feature in the CPL, and that will be great to watch, both from a fan perspective and for all the locals, domestics out there. Apart from that, the squad has Tristan Stubbs, they have Sherfin Rutherford, Evan Lewis, of course, up top, Joshua De Silva, and who else? Bowling as well. Like I'm looking
You're
forward to
saying
seeing.
Joshua De Silva as if he's like a really pro, like a T20 pedigree player. He's not.
No, but then the surfaces are such that you will not always want T20 smasher batter. And
Exactly.
the one name that I'm very interested there is Dominic Drakes,
Uh,
because I definitely did see the 21 final, and
yeah,
for them to win from there,
that
I mean, they
game.
needed what, 19 and like needed 30 odd in last 2 overs, and
Yeah.
then Drakes wins it with 48 not out on 24 balls. So it's just again, they had Bravo then, but now he'll
Yep.
not be part of that setup. So again, Drakes is somebody who's played a lot of cricket everywhere. So again, part of the IPL rings as well. So let's see.
Yep.
Yeah,
He's
they have
coming
some
back from injury, so that'll be
Yeah.
interesting to see if he's fit and all set to go.
interesting names, and of course, let's see who, of course, wins this CPL because we've had some side bets in the house right now, and I think Santosh Sharpa was also going to go on to say this: shouldn't they change the format of the six teams league? Getting four teams for the playoff makes it more inconsequential. And then Sports Fan
Agreed.
has countered Santosh, saying IPL is more worse. They have five teams and four make it to the playoffs. So
No. Oh wow. Okay. Wow. Wow.
yeah,
Sorry. I was looking at it seriously. Took me a second. Mentos की
obviously
बत्ती थोड़ी late चली बस.
it's just a little chuckle. Right. So that's going to be interesting, the CPL. Now, one tournament which is going on as we speak is the 100, and there's lots to like in that one. We'll talk about Rashid Khan in just a bit, but one man who really took our particular eyes and ears by storm essentially was this man on your screen. He plays for the Oval Invincibles. His name is, of course, Spencer Johnson. And what he did essentially was quite ridiculous in the game against Manchester Originals. He bowled his set of 20 and he conceded just one run, taking 3 wickets. I mean, that's quite ridiculous, guys. And generally, in the 3 games that he's bowled so far, he's got 4 wickets and he's kept it absolutely miserish. Did you see that particular performance? How did you guys come to know of the news? Obviously, it was breaking quick at that point in time.
No, I definitely saw that game, and of course, rooting from fantasy side aside, I think it is always good to take note of such players, because then he's been part of the BBL setup for a while. He played a season, and you felt that okay, there is a lot of potential there. And in those 20 balls, if people haven't seen, please go and watch it, because 10 of them I think were plays and misses. The bat did not even get close to the ball. So it's like you have that one, this is the dream day that anybody could have. Now it's like okay, he may have gotten wickets towards the end, but he still had to bowl very well. So when you see him bowl, you realize why he is in the Australian squad as well for the T20s in South Africa. So I think that let everybody have more fun when they watch him then.
I think the 100 is essentially just a good idea and a good sort of strategy, especially with Nasser and there. They've got Ravi Shastri and commentating and all of that. But I want to throw Akshay under the bus here because Santosh Sharpa basically says, let's see anyone from the panel knows in which ball of the 20 balls he gave away that single.
Oh wow.
Uh,
By
Interesting.
sub.
I would say it was in the first set itself. I'm pretty sure it was in the first set. I'm trying to think when was it. I don't know. Fourth ball. I'll just say fourth ball.
I'm going for 14th. I don't know. I'm just going for 14th. Nick, do you want to have a guess? And Santosh, you can tell us in the comments below whether we got it right or not. But thanks for this little quiz in the Monday Night Live segment. Charan Reddy going on to say, I'm sure that Johnson will be in Mumbai Indians squad for 2024. By
Yeah,
the way,
yesterday.
So we had
well,
this conversation. Let's put
Yeah,
this out so that we can
yeah,
clip it out later.
yeah.
So
Date change
Punjab
कर देना बस.
date change कर देंगे. 14th
हाँ.
August, Spencer Johnson goes to Punjab Kings because they have a lot of money. Doesn't get more than 2-3 games. He's expensive, so he's sold to Mumbai Indians or traded to Mumbai Indians on a platter, and then Spencer Johnson takes a $5 against Punjab Kings.
oh
It
my
is
God.
written. It's written.
Who writes these scripts? Honestly, who writes these scripts? But yeah, thanks, Charan, for that comment over there. Before we get into the 12th man segment, we have to, of course, peer to Akshay's segment, which is how's that. But before that, I told you about one man, Rashid Khan, and why he hasn't been seen in the 100 competition this year. So why is that? Is it a case of him just playing lots of cricket? Well, it could be. Let's just take a look at this particular depiction, and here's what I mean.
Why doesn't the 100 have Rashid Khan this year? Let's explain. Since June 2022, Rashid Khan has played every international game for Afghanistan, featuring in 22 T20 internationals and 6 one-day international matches. But that's not it. Rashid has also played as many as 81 T20 games around the world, representing 7 franchisees in this period. Besides playing in the IPL, Rashid has also participated in the Big Bash League Down Under. Not to forget the Pakistan Super League, as well as the SA20. The Caribbean Premier League as well sees Rashid ply his trade. And the Vitality T20 Blast last year, as well as the 100 last year, are the comps that he plays in the United Kingdom. In fact, the 100 this year lost its most high-profile overseas player, that is Rashid Khan.
ਤੁਸੀਂ ਜਾ ਰਹੇ ਹੋ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਨਾ ਜਾਓ
But why did he opt out?
लेकिन क्यों? What's the purpose?
Well, Rashid Khan was doing Rashid Khan things in the Major League Cricket final in Dallas. He pocketed 3 for 9 on the night of July 31st, with the 100 opening appearance scheduled 12 hours later in Nottingham. And there was no chance he was going to make that flight, let alone play that game.
No, God!
But back to Rashid though. Remember, he was retained by the Trent Rockets on a top bracket £125,000 contract, and he would have earned a pro rata salary for his 3 appearances this year. But money here isn't the talking point. It is the sheer volume of cricket that this Afghan has played. The fact that Rashid Khan officially withdrew from the tournament due to an unspecified injury might just be the fact that he needed a goddamn break.
And sometimes you just need a goddamn break, like 3 of us here, because we work Saturday, we work Sunday, we work Monday, we work for the West Indies series, the Island series. I mean, honestly, but we love what we do. I'm sure Rashid loves what he does as well, but it was impossible for him to do and fulfill his duties on the 31st of July and then, of course, make the opening at Nottingham on the 1st of August. But guys, just a quick word on that. How much cricket is too much cricket? 81 T20 internationals across 7 franchisees. I mean, is he a man or a machine? Kya hai aadmi?
I think certainly an enigma to be able to play so long. And it's remarkable how consistent he is, despite being playing in so many leagues, in various conditions and situations. It may be a homogeneous kind of a surface where it is not too dissimilar from each other, but it still takes a lot of skills to always be going like 1 for 20, 22 for 0. And when he'll have a good day, when people will not read him, he'll go for 3 for 20 or so. Remarkable, but you see, this is what's going to happen in the near future, that they will eventually start taking a call. Yes, cricketers have a shorter shelf life, but that in that shorter shelf life as well, you'll not want to burn yourself out. So going forward, you may have 100 more leagues coming up, but eventually players and leagues both will have to take care of each other so that the competition remains at a good level and the players also fit enough to give you good quality games.
Yeah, and someone like Rashid is a high-profile signing, a marquee player in these T20 leagues. So, I mean, it's a no-brainer for him to accumulate all the cash, given that it's a short lifespan for these cricketers, Akshay. just to finish with you on the Rashid thing, in June, he I think surpassed or became the first man to get 550 T20 wickets as a spinner or something like that. Where will he end up? Because I'm thinking with the age on his side, this bloke could get way past 1,000 wickets as well by the end of time.
I'd be very surprised, and a part of me would also be disappointed if he ends his career with anywhere less than 1,000, because he's still. I mean, technically, he's still what, 26, if I'm not wrong, as per
On
records.
paper.
Yeah, on paper he's 26, so he's got a good 10 and maybe even 15 years. Like if T20s, if T20 is the only format he focuses on, which is also primarily the reason why he's been able to play so many franchise games, because Afghanistan doesn't play just as many tests or ODIs.
Sorry, he's 24.
He's,
Oh my God, I stand corrected once
he's younger than Prithvi Shaw. He's younger than Prithvi Shaw.
He's younger than me. That's wow. I don't know if I should have some imposter
He's younger
syndrome.
than you.
Yeah, I'm 25. Oh
Wow,
man.
that's mad. Absolutely
Yep.
mad. By the way, guys, so essentially, the whole Rashid chat, jump in the comments and let us know about how many wickets he'll end up taking in his T20 career. I don't know, but if you guys get it spot on, we'll give you some merchandise whenever you guys can contact us 9 years from now. By the way, Santosh about being cheeky and giving us the answer of that question, saying it was a 6. So the
Yeah.
exact answer is we do
Missed
for
it by 2 balls.
the prize. He's pulling us there 100%. And lots of you guys have kept some questions, which I'll keep for the 12th man segment, of course. But before we get into the Akshay segment of how's that, tomorrow is, of course, India's Independence Day, and happy Independence Day to all of you guys in advance from all of us here at cricket.com. And we have a cracking cricket.com classic, of course, surrounding the whole story of Independence Day. It talks about one man and one man, the father of the nation. Check this out. Gandhi and cricket. We don't think two more contradictory terms could have crossed paths if we go by their influence in the history books. And surprisingly, India's most prominent freedom fighter and the gentleman's game often kept meeting at junctures, separated by years, of course. As we celebrate India's 77th Independence Day, we track back to the connections that bind the father of the nation, Mohandas Karamchand Gandhi, and cricket. We'll move on to how's that, because there's a cracking question this time around. First, the stage. Right, Akshay, take over. Before you tell us what we have in store this week, can you please, for the benefit of the viewers, or the viewer right now, tell him exactly who's won this competition last week?
Yeah, last week. So if you guys remember the question, we basically put up a wagon wheel and asked you people to predict whose wagon wheel does this represent, player and innings. And a few of them, or rather a couple of them, got it right. And who but Santosh Uduppa to be the first one to get the correct answer? It was Riddhiman Saha's century in the finals versus KKR in 2014. So congratulations, Santosh. In case you haven't joined the stream yet, just make sure. I mean, you know the drill. You don't need to share your details. Just tell us which much you want, and we'll have it sent across. Pranav Anand, meanwhile,
He's won so many now, it's quite ridiculous.
seven. This is his 7th.
And I'm also kind of chuckling at Pranav Anand's comments, saying, thank God you're back. But I was like Fazil Mohammed shouting, why did he do that?
Oh man,
but yeah.
really sorry, guys. Yeah.
What is it? Yeah, we apologize. Honestly, we apologize. Blame it on the software, but do not shoot the messengers in terms of the producers of the show. Right. So let's put out that depiction of the how's that question this time around. And Akshay, talk me through it.
Yep. So you guys can see a table. The table has how many? 3, 6, 10 entries. There are 10 bowlers and 10 spells that you guys can see. So firstly, this is an exhaustive list. So these are the only entries in this list. There's no one else. There's no one that's been excluded. Firstly, what I want you guys to do is guess what's the funda behind this list. What is this an exhaustive list of? That's the first part. And then you see the 2 names highlighted, Ajanta Mendes and Lasant Malinga. So the second thing I want you guys to guess is what's the funda? Why are these 2 names highlighted? So yeah, so basically there are 2 parts to this question. The first part is what is this an exhaustive list of? And the second part, what do the highlighted names indicate? Why are they unique from the others in this list?
Interesting. Of course, you guys can screenshot that or basically tell us what we're kind of
Or
indicating.
come back to the video and watch it again. That also helps.
Yeah, Santosh Sharma already kind of having an early pop at it. World Cup fifers, question mark. We will confirm the answers next week in the Monday night show, Monday night live show, I should say. But we'll end it with you guys right now. And I wish I can go back to the previous live, which I will do right now, and take out some questions from there. Because ultimately, what is this show without you guys? So here we have it, the 12th man segment. Right, so there were a couple of good ones from the ones earlier in the previous link. One was basically to do with how do they kind of play out the whole Gill chapter in T20 internationals. We spoke about it briefly in the watch along. With Jaiswal now another fascination in terms of the opening slot. Akshay, you take this. What is the puzzle, the perfect puzzle for India?
Wait, I'm still not sure if I follow the question entirely. What is the perfect puzzle?
Essentially, in the top order, how will they fit in the whole Shubman Gill factor?
Okay, for the ODI World Cup or for the T20
For the
World Cup?
T20s in particular, I think that bloke was asking. I think Sports Fan was.
Cool. So, for me in T20s, the way I would look at it is Shubman Gill, Yashasvi Jaiswal, Sky 1 down, Tilak 2 down, Sanju/Jitesh 3 down, and 4 down, 5 down, 6 down is where it would be Pandya, Jadeja, Akshay, 2 of these 3. And then it would be Bumrah, Siraj, and I would go for Bishnoi as my leg spinner.
Okay, Vishnu is your leg spinner. Next, take this one from Pranav Anand. It's a two-part question. He says, your thoughts on Samson. Remember Anirudh's article during IPL pointing out how teams planned better and bowled more hard lengths and his average went down proportionally. Pandya 2 struggles versus that type. And his second part of the question is, shouldn't Samson be batting at 4 as having 2 finishers struggling with hard length isn't ideal? Tilak at 5. Your thoughts?
No, firstly, once again, excellent question from Pranav. You love it when you have questions like this because it tells you how much deeper the issue is, which isn't always highlighted as much as we see in the mainstream communication that we have. So well done, Pranav. I think if you look back at it, it's something that has bothered MS as well in the second half of his career, that everybody practiced a lot for the Yorker. And you found that, okay, the Yorker is something that has its own merits and rewards, and people will still go to it. But something that has bothered a lot of lower Indian batters like at 5-6 is the hard length into the body. It's what Rabada did when he had 8 runs to defend versus MS in England as well, in that sense. So there have been stuff that has bothered all of these players. So, and it's not like they haven't tried. They have had success pulling as well, but it's just on surfaces that are tricky that you get into difficult positions to combat that. So very keen to see what Hardik finds a solution to it, because when he was with Mumbai, he used to get into a different position, then pull it. What Samson does is a different battle, because we still don't know what is his exact role in terms of where are they going to try him. Because if he's at 4 and if he's set, then I don't think the short ball will then trouble him if he's set and then he's going after the bowling. So I think the problem has also been when they want to attack as opposed to wanting to rotate. So that's where I feel the difference could be. And again, the sample size with Samson isn't much, fortunately or unfortunately, in terms of international cricket. So in the Ireland series, again, it will be interesting to see what lengths, Little bowls, Mark Adair bowled, Craig Young bowls to them, because then that's where we'll also see if their plan is the word has gone through. So of course, you'll ideally want him up there, but then this is probably where you'll want to use Jadeja, an option versus space, that he's someone who can take the short ball on better as compared to those two if you want to hit out. So again, Tilak will be a vital cog to separate those two, but I think that's where you'll have to use Jadeja as well if he's playing in that setup.
Very insightful question there by Pranav, and of course also a plug-in for Anirudh's article about that particular chat about hard lengths and everything. Final question, and it of course isn't in this stream, but from the last stream There are lots pertaining to Dravid, the coach, and it's inevitable because he's lost a series 3-2 last night. Many people thinking, should he run down his contract or should they get in someone right now? I don't think that should be the case. But Akshay, what are your thoughts? And then we'll wrap proceedings.
I mean, what good is going to come out of, terminating his contract now, just like a month away from the World Cup? There's nothing.
It ends at the World Cup, I think. It ends at the
Exactly.
World Cup.
Yeah.
And I
exactly.
don't think it'll be renewed. I
Yeah.
don't see
I don't see
anything.
Dravid himself wanting to renew,
Yeah.
to be honest, even.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's a
So-
tough one for the former Indian captain to take and the current Indian coach. That's all we have in this Monday night live show. Sorry, because you guys might think it's an 8-minute show. It isn't, because there were 2 lives and we'll stitch it together. So if you guys have watched it, can you just do me a favor and like this video, even though you've seen this content? Because there was something really bizarre which went on just before we ended the show. But we hope we've covered pretty much everything. Australia, South Africa, the CPL, the India Island, look aheads as well. And we're going to be doing watch-alongs later in the week. That's all we have time for. Thank you, Akshay, and thank you, Nikhil, for, of course, another crackerjacker for Monday Night Live. That's all we have. We'll see you soon. Like I said, a happy independence to all you guys. Have a fantastic one. We'll actually end the show right now.
Nah.